Hey Jen. How do you think a person gets to heaven?
By being good?
Did you know that God says that you can't get to heaven that way?
Why not?
Because according to Romans 3:12 we find that nobody does good.
How is that possible?
In Genesis chapter 3 we find that Adam did a good thing to fall. He ate a wonderfully created piece of fruit which was nourishing to him. But the fruit wasn't the issue. The issue was that Adam didn't want to do what was right in God's eyes but instead left God's righteousness to establish his own righteousness. He wanted to be his own God and produce righteousness himself, and righteousness produced by ourselves is self-righteousness, and self-righteousness is sin. The very best we can do apart from God's righteousness is to produce acts of self-righteousness. And this is why God says in Isaiah 64:6 that all our righteousnesses are like filthy rags. Romans 3:23 says that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. We in Adam fell from God's righteousness and fell to our righteousness.
Then it's Adam's fault.
A person can't blame Adam for their fall from God's righteousness. The very fact that one is fighting for his or her own righteousness proves that they do not want the righteousness of God. God isn't rejecting people but people are rejecting God. In 2 Peter 3:9 we find that God doesn't want anyone to go to hell but wants everyone to be saved.
So in other words, our righteousness can't save us from hell when it was our righteousness which cut us off from God's righteousness in the first place.
Exactly. It's not a person's righteousness which can save them. It's their righteousness which they need to be saved from. God asks the question in 1 Corinthians 4:7, what do we have which we didn't receive? All that is good was created by God, so what good can we give God which isn't already his? Adam had no good to give God before the fall, so what makes us think we have any good of our own to give God after the fall? And according to God there are no degrees of good or bad, but that God looks only at whether one is still lost in Adam's righteousness or saved in Christ and his righteousness. Romans 5:15-19 tell us that bad deeds don't send people to hell and good deeds don't send one to heaven, but that we lost it in Adam and we find life in Christ.